Ja, danke. Hallo zusammen. Ich habe einen elsässischen Namen, kann aber nicht auf Schweizerdeutsch reden. Also Entschuldigung, ich werde meinen Vortrag auf Englisch geben. So, thank you for this invitation. I took some notes during the previous speaker's speech because I always like to be inspired by the people who want to create a revolution. And today the theme is the new finance. We need that. And what a better country than Switzerland to bring about the next steps in finance. We should be optimistic. I think there's a lot to create. I think Switzerland has an enviable position of being neutral. This is going to be very important, I think, in trade. If you look at what happened recently with China, you look at what happened with the USA in a maybe less upbeat note, but we're one of the few countries in the world who can deal with the European Union as if we were part of it, but still keeping our vote, so we're not really part of it. It's fantastic. We have all the benefits of the EU without the drawbacks. It's great. We can deal with the USA, we can deal with China, we can deal with Iran, we can deal with South Africa, with Nigeria. Who knows? Do you know the next 11 countries? They are supposed to be the countries that will make the most growth in the next 10 years. And we should trade with all these countries. So that's my political aside for today. I love Switzerland. Jan mentioned that we are now becoming the Homo digitalis. We are permanently connected, and this has changed really, really fast. Thanks to the technology and thanks to a lot of social changes as well, which were pioneered by the people who basically built the internet. And I was lucky enough to be part of these people when 20 years ago I was at CERN with a neighbor called Tim Berners-Lee, who was writing a bit of code, putting hyperlinks between servers. Guess what? Was it interesting? And the speed is very interesting because that was 1990. There were maybe 1 million computers on the internet and a few more users because these computers were mostly shared in universities. But by the year 2000, we reached 100 million computers and people connected to the internet. So 100 times in a decade. And many people predicted the internet would collapse. There was one famous innovator called Bob Metcalfe who even said he would eat his column from a newspaper if the internet did not collapse. And well, the internet did not collapse. He ate the paper in front of the crowd in the year 2000. That was fantastic. This was one of the guys who invented Ethernet. He invented the cable. So he knew about scaling and technology, but he still didn't anticipate. It's really strange sitting here in 2013 and thinking that in our lifetime we have seen such a fast transformation. So how fast has it been? From 2000 to 2010, we went from 100 million to 1 billion people using the internet. And not only the quantity, but also the quality of usage has dramatically changed. Now you have the internet in your pocket, as Jan said. This kind of device is almost obsolete. We had even trouble transferring my slide there because it couldn't activate Bluetooth. It doesn't make sense. So it was, and in the next 10 years, what will happen? It will reach saturation of the world population. We will have 5 billion people on the net permanently with devices in their pockets. So if you look at this evolution, it has been really, really strange to me that although the internet has disrupted so many industries and so much of our lives, in fact, of our daily lives, it almost hasn't touched finance. Finance, first of all, who has access to finance? If you take the same numbers, take the same years, the internet in 1990 was maybe 1 million people. Who had a bank account in 1990? Well, 600 million people. Basically the rich countries. And 10 years later, in 2000, maybe 800 million, a few more, some emerging. 2010, okay, we have reached 1 billion people have bank accounts, have credit cards. You know, and Visa is reaching saturation. What they try to do is sell you 2 or 3 or 4 credit cards and debit cards and prepaid cards for your kids. Cards, 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 cards. Come on. It's a piece of plastic with 16 digits on it. It was a great invention in the 60s. It has nothing to do with digital technology. Okay? So where will the finance world be in 2020? Will it keep going like 20%, 25% more each decade? So we will have maybe 1.2 billion people, 1.3 accessing finance? No. The trend has already changed. The internet, the technology, has taken over finance, and it will take it much, much faster now. So if you rely on what used to be, what has always been a bank, what has always been a bank account, what has always been a wire transfer, a credit card, you're going to get overtaken by all these innovations. It's starting, for example, in some countries in Africa, M-Pesa in Kenya. You have a similar system in Uganda. You have 15 competing systems in Nigeria. You know, for a population of 160 million people, they will all have mobile money through their phones because they already have 2 or 3 phones in their pockets. Because depending on the operator who's doing one promotion one day or the other, they call with one phone or with another. It's true. Go any country in Africa, that's what happens. I don't know really well South America, but I suppose it's similar. So this is overtaking the banking system, and the regulators have to be also innovative. They have to create an environment which lets this thing happen, because they will happen with or without the regulation. So the regulators had better follow and be ready to embrace the innovation and measure the risk according to what the technology is, not what banking has always been. So we should use the expertise of banking professionals to think what should be the appropriate regulation for digital, always-on connected services. So, what about Mobino? I can speak a little bit about my project. So, exactly, we will have 5 billion people connected to the internet permanently in 10 years. I just want to enable mobile payment for all these people. If I don't do it, somebody else will do it. I mean, we certainly won't reach that goal, but it's nice, you know, for the VCs. They want a 1 billion market, so we have a 5 billion market, you know, better than Facebook. They love this. They still don't fund us. Anyway, it will happen, regardless if we succeed or not. This will happen. The next PayPal will happen. We want to be the next PayPal. You know, PayPal did a great innovation in '98. Now they're doing something new since a Swiss guy, David Marcus, good friend of mine, became the CEO. They're innovating, but they're far, far away from the goal. Imagine that a company, an internet company that's been around for 15 years, has only 120 million regular users on the planet. For all the people who have a basic need, which is to exchange money, to pay for services or to receive payment. It's really striking, you know, and it tells a lot about the apathy of the financial sector, because money is too easy. It's really too easy. PayPal makes 2.9% on each transaction. You know, why would they want to and they have no competition because there's such a barrier to entry. You know, the regulation in the States, it's true, you need a license in each state. If you open a PayPal account from Switzerland, you're in fact regulated by Singapore because they don't want to be regulated by the Swiss. It's weird. It's really, really weird. You know. So we are regulated by the Swiss. You know, we just got the authorization from ARIF and the FINMA, so that's fine. And we have built a little tool that fits in your pocket. You can install it on Android or iPhone. It installs in 2 minutes, where you can do all the basic things with money. That is, you can send money to anyone the same way I can give you a banknote. I give you 50 Swiss francs, you get 50. You don't get 49. And I don't pay 52 in order to give you 50. it's cash. So Mobino works the same for payments to anyone in your address book or anyone whose phone number you have. It's free transfer. You can pay merchants with without any advanced technology, without NFC, without Bluetooth. You're just a little code that the merchant shows you because the merchant is always connected. So he can show you that code, 5 digits. You type it, you have paid in a few seconds. And you can ask for payments, so you can be a little merchant yourself. And for all the merchant payments, we take a commission of just 1%. We think we can make money with 1%. We think if we get at some scale, we will have the same advantage as Amazon, that we will be able to make money just by lowering the price. We'll make it 0.9 and 0.8 and 0.7, and in the end, it will be 0.1%. Dwola already does something like that in the US. They introduced a system where every transaction, no matter the amount, costs you 25 cents. And it's free if it's under $10. So it's possible. They just attracted a very big round of investment from Andreessen Horowitz, a very reputable venture capitalist. They say exactly that. We have to build the next PayPal. So why would such a tool be the basis for reinventing finance? Well, I think we have to start from the small things. When you talk about banking, about financial services, and Switzerland has thousands and thousands of companies in financial services. Well, we're talking about credit, we're talking about investment, wealth management, portfolio balancing, structured products. We're talking about rather complex things. But the basic operation of finance, which is I give you money, it's not addressed really well. It's addressed. We are saturated with payment systems. We have bank accounts and wire transfers and Einzahlungsscheine and credit cards and debit cards and prepaid stuff. We have too many of those, but none of them is easy to use. If you buy something on the internet today, you go to checkout, you're ready to buy, you've made your shopping. By the time you have paid with your credit card, you have made an average of 75 keystrokes or mouse movements, just to say, let me pay. Sorry, why is the internet, why is a digital thing less efficient than taking cash out of your pocket? This is ridiculous. So we're aiming at really squeezing that complexity. And when we squeeze the complexity, we also lower the risk, and we also increase the conversion in fact, the speed of the economy. That's what's happening in Kenya. Since they have mobile money that can be triggered with any SMS, the GDP of the country, the economy, has actually improved faster than it would without. It's amazing. So we want this not only for Kenyans, we want this for Swiss people, for European people, for the whole world. Why not? So there's here a market within the rich countries, the countries which have banks, basically. The market is to make things simpler and cheaper and less risky. That's three things. Less risky because we move money in real time or quasi-real time. So we don't have the credit risk. I mean, we have to take a little bit of the credit risk because we connect to back-end systems which are not as fast as we want. But we think the consumer should not bear the burden of the credit risk. And what did I say? Yeah, faster, I mentioned, cheaper, I mentioned, and less risky. So if we achieve this in European markets, there's a huge industry to replace. The industry of payments, it's a lot of volume. But then what happens in the countries which don't have very accessible banking systems? Many countries where the economy is growing, they are called emerging or not even emerging, but still there's a lot of things happening. the banks only address the elite. They address the people who make more than 1,000 a month. So it's, depending on the country's level, maybe 10%, 20%, 25% of the population. The banks, the credit card companies, do not address the for existing money transfers. It's not a simplification. It's a need. It's bringing a new service to somebody who didn't have any. You know, when you can send money to your grandmother who is living in the countryside by just pressing a few buttons instead of taking a bus or giving the money to an intermediary who will take you, 10% for it, it's progress. And people are ready to pay for the transactions because it saves them so much energy, so much time, and so much risk. So you have these two markets. It's very interesting. These two very, very different markets addressed by basically the same product. The same product which makes money transfers simple. And it turns out there is a connection between those two markets. It's called the international remittances. It's a technical term to mean, well, rich people sending money to poor people, basically. That's a huge market. And again, it's absolutely inefficient today. You want to send money to someone in India or in Morocco, what do? You go to Western Union, you go to Travelex, you make a wire transfer to India, it takes 3 weeks to be cleared. Excuse me, they will take, the poorer you are, the more you pay. You pay a fixed fee which can amount to 10% of the amount you send. Can you imagine that? 10% of the money? Imagine you receive your salary and just the transfer fee from your bank is 10%. So it's like a tax. And who takes this tax? It's Western Union and Travelex. Sorry, I repeat these names. I don't think it's fair. Of course, they have costs. They have, they inherited their systems from the telegraph days, so they have huge costs. The internet is going to wipe this all out completely. So, with Mobino, our bet is that if we provide this easy-to-use application that works exactly the same if you're in a rich country or a poor country, it works the same if you have a bank account or if you don't have one. It even works the same if you have a smartphone or not. We have a version where you can call a toll-free number and make your transaction just with voice synthesis. It's really neat. So if we provide this tool that is really delivering universal payments, we have a chance of capturing a part of these three very big markets. The retail payments in advanced economies, the mobile money in developing economies, and the remittances between the two. That's the business plan. Who wants to fund us? All right. How much time do I have?
5 minutes.
All right. So I can speak about the bigger picture. The bigger picture is interesting. This is just the front end. Make it easy in the front end. And behind the scenes, we must do something efficient. And I am absolutely not of the opinion that we should reinvent money. I don't care for Bitcoin. It's funny, but, well, that's not the way the world economy turns. World economy turns on real money. Real, well, money is as real as the trust you put in there. I'm sorry to say, if I have 100 Swiss francs in my pocket, I'm much more confident than if I have 100,000 Uganda shillings. Hey, that's life. So, Swiss National Bank will be a trusted entity. And the US Federal Reserve, for good or bad reasons, is also a very trusted entity. And the euro will not collapse. It will not. The euro is here to stay. So, we work with these real currencies. And the settlement systems between all the actors who move money are also in need of a bit of a revamp. I mentioned Nigeria. I went there a few times. I met the people who set up the gross real-time settlement system for Nigeria. It's called NIPS. It's the equivalent of SIX here in Switzerland. They process all transaction authorizations for any account, either in a bank, a microfinance bank, or a mobile money operator, real time. You have 1 second response time. And you know the money is here and is transferred and is guaranteed. Zero risk. And it was not such a big investment in technology because they didn't have a legacy system. Well, in fact, they had a legacy system, but they let it die gradually. And they are more efficient than our services here. With Mobino, when I want to grab money from your account, I have to wait D+1. If I'm really lucky, I have to wait 4 hours. And we are the most advanced technological society in the world. Makes no sense. Okay, the UK is making a step in that direction. They have an initiative called Faster Payments, which promises real-time authorization. That's cool. We will plug into this when we go to the UK. There's already a few startups taking advantage of this. For Europe, we're connecting to the SEPA system, which is a unified way of accessing all accounts in 32 countries. That's the theory. The practice is not so unified. For example, it works in 32 countries, but it only supports euro. And there are only 17 countries in the Eurozone. So what do? If I have a payment from Poland to UK, I convert to euro on both sides? No, it's stupid, but I'm sure this will come. And SEPA is also D+1, D+2 for settlement. But the worst thing is the first time I order a SEPA debit from an account, somebody subscribes to Mobino, say, yes, I authorize you to take money from my account. I'm in Germany. I, as a payment provider, payment service provider, regulated payment service provider, have to wait 8 days for the first payment to be cleared. In the name of what? In the name of consumer protection. Sorry, consumer protection, he can revert the payment in 8 weeks. If there's a fraud, he can revert the payment in 1 year and 1 month, so he's protected. And we are regulated businesses, we are not terrorists, I'm sorry to say. So give us a break already, let us do things. For this, the Swiss are smarter because if the client says, I authorize you, I can take the money immediately and it will be taken the next day. And the customer has 30 days to say it's wrong. So that's fair. I wish Europe would be inspired by Switzerland. I wish Europe would be inspired by Switzerland also from the political standpoint, the right of initiative and all this, but well, we would go to politics again. And one last thing, the bigger picture, so we need nice front end, we need more efficient settlement systems, and in the long run, I think we need the central banks of the world to decide that digital cash should be legal tender. That is to say, in the same way that central banks today or treasury operators print money on paper, and by the way, it's Swiss companies who provide most of the money printing machines in the world, another industry where we are leaders. I think the central banks should print in somehow digital money. That is, the system of person-to-person money transfer that I'm trying to build privately, I think it should be really owned and delivered by the state. The monetary value should be delivered directly by the central bank. It's the end of money laundering, Everybody has an account that is totally traceable. Privacy advocates will jump up and down, but they have accepted Facebook. What can be worse? Do you trust Mark Zuckerberg or do you trust the governor of the Central Bank of Switzerland? I know who I trust. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. I think there will be a few questions.
Hi, I'm Bernard Mueller. How do you think you are going to convince the investors that they should invest in this company? I think there is quite a lot of competition right now, especially from these decentralized or other cryptocurrencies and apps where you can transfer money. There is a Ripple startup where you can transfer any sort of currency into any other. So what exactly is the highlight in your company, or what would you like to highlight? Why are you so different, or why you are going to reach this 1 billion people you're aiming at?
Yes, there are many initiatives in payments, and that proves two things. That proves, one, that the current system is in need of innovation. And the second thing, it proves that it's easy to do on the surface. It's true, you know. What is money? What is a payment? It's 20, 25 bytes of information, you know. Account in, account out, currency, amount, timestamp. That's it. That's a money transaction. So I'm not surprised that there are dozens or hundreds of companies trying to make it more fluid. What makes us different is we do not follow the general advice to startups, which is go and address a niche market and be the best in your niche. No. We want to address a universal payment system. So Mobino is one of the only applications that does in the same app money sending, money receiving in any currency, in any country, for individuals and for merchants. And it works with smartphone or without smartphone. It works online and it works offline. That is the differentiator.
More questions?
Hello, my name is Dominic Schreiber. I want to ask you if you had the thought to integrate complementary currencies or alternative currencies into Mobino.
Well, if alternative currencies become popular and credible, it's easy for us to integrate them. You know, we integrate already 25 different currencies today, so we can add Bitcoin or Vir money. You know, we have an alternative currency in Switzerland. We can integrate that. It will depend on demand. I do not want to make a political statement out of it, which is why I'm taking my distance with Bitcoin. But hey, if it grows into a regulated and respectable thing, which it might be, I think it's a really sound platform. You know, don't get me wrong, it's not a toy. Bitcoin is a very serious thing. Yes, we will integrate it. It's just not our focus. We don't want to be seen as a Bitcoin startup. That's absolutely not what we are.
Marco at Juni. When will it be possible to unload money to your e-wallet system? Because currently it's not possible, so it's
yes. This is in the next version, which is going to be open to the public on 1st of July.
Brilliant.
Okay, one last question.
Hi, I'm Andre. I have a question regarding the innovation, the lack of innovation regarding the software solutions. What do you think? What are the main reasons why there was not more innovation or more investments of the banks, maybe mostly the Swiss banks, in better or more sophisticated payment solutions? Mm-hmm. What is the reason? Are they just too comfortable in the market, or?
Okay, so I'll extend a bit your question. Yes, you're asking why has finance been so slow to be touched by digital revolution? Huh? And you're right to mention that the banks themselves have not innovated much, but there also have not been external innovators who would put pressure on the banks. Basically, since PayPal, nobody innovated in finance. Well, Square did, but it's like 3 years ago. They were 10 years without any major innovation in payments. With regards to startups, I think it's mostly the fear of having extremely costly operations because of the regulatory burden. And if you combine high fixed costs with very low margins, because you move a lot of money, you can quote, yes, we move billions of dollars, but you take 0.5% or 0.2% of these billions. So it's a really risky proposition, and I think very few investors have the guts to do it, and very few entrepreneurs have the guts to do it. I believe today we see a wave of innovation because, interestingly, the back end, the things between banks has improved. When I had the first idea to do a payment system, it was 10 years ago, and I couldn't. But a few years later, I saw the SEPA initiative coming online under pressure from the European Union, and suddenly it gives me a possibility as a small player to have access to all the settlement systems that were only reserved for big players before. So that is the reason we see innovation. To come back to the core of your question, why didn't banks themselves innovate? I think that's just for business reasons. For most banks, retail payments is a loss center. It's not a profit center. So they invest a lot in innovation in places where they think they can make a profit, and they often make a profit, trading and all that stuff, and creative loans and structured products and advice on your wealth, etc. But the day-to-day Trafic des Paiements, as they say in Switzerland, I don't know how to say that in English, Zahlungsverkehr, that's not seen as a sexy thing. So first of all, it costs you money, and second, it works as is. They don't see the need to innovate. Maybe if some startups rethink the way that money should travel, because money comes from the concept of money comes from exchange between people. The banks came later, right? So now the banks have a monopoly on moving money, and perhaps the internet, the technology, and the ubiquity of networks is a little bit putting pressure on the banks that, oh, maybe we cannot just sit on our monopoly anymore. And we hear some banks who innovate. I was mentioning Duola earlier, which is a startup in the USA. They partnered with some credit institutions, the equivalent of Caisse d'Épargne here, to improve the settlement system. And they have a system called FiSync, which is connected to banks with a standard API, which bypasses the old ACH system and is more efficient, while being as secure. The banks also fear a lot for security, of course, that's natural. So yes, it's happening. We see even some banks in France, an extremely conservative country, some banks are starting to publish APIs. So I can go to Crédit Agricole and connect to your bank account if you, as a customer, authorize me to do all kinds of creative things, like probably Thomas will tell you about, because he's the expert in doing those things.
Okay, thank you very much.